Hello, good evening. Welcome to Salve TV. This is your host, Monica Kunzekwe Guta. Today, I have got my young sister here, Ruvimbo, and she's going to talk to us about making menstrual products accessible. In a minute, she's going to tell us a bit more about that. Um, Hi, Ruvimbo. Can you introduce yourself to our audience?
Hi, Monica. Thank you so much for having me. And as you said, my name is Ruvimbo Chimutsa. I am the president and founder of the Grace Anelli Project. And that is a small, I shouldn't say small, that is a grassroots organization that is operating in Zimbabwe, but we are based in Canada because most of the members of the board, as well as myself, are here in Canada. So that's a little bit of an intro about who we are, and I can describe a bit more of how we got started.
Yeah.
So in 2016, a group of friends and myself, we came together. And when I say a group of friends and myself, it's, friends from all over the African continent. So some friends from Kenya, friends from Nigeria, some friends here in Canada, as well as friends from Zimbabwe. We came together and we wanted to do something to help girls back home, to do something to help women and girls back home. And so one thing that I had heard about from, family members, etc., was girls were having a difficult time accessing menstrual products, which is something at that point I'd never thought of, right? I'd never thought, what? What do you mean they have difficulty accessing menstrual products? So by having conversation with girls and women in different communities, I realized and, you know, dug deep and more and found out that because of the high levels of unemployment, because of the high levels of poverty in Zimbabwe, as well as many other countries around the world, young girls did not have access to menstrual products. They couldn't afford them. Women didn't have access to menstrual products. And so the effects of that were girls were missing school, they're missing classes, sometimes, for 3 to maybe 7 days during the time that they have their periods. And so that's increasing the gender inequality gap, right? Because you now have girls missing very long periods of school, they're having a difficulty catching up. So we decided that this is something we would do as an organization, is provide menstrual products to girls in school. We started by providing them to girls in primary school. So we work in a community called Mukombami, which is my ancestral home. It for those who come from Zimbabwe, it's about 7 to 10 kilometers away from Murewa. So it's a small community village, and we work with the primary school there, and we give about 200 girls each year reusable menstrual products. We decided to do reusable menstrual products because we found that, so those are reusable pads, because we found that they lasted longer. They can last over a year over a year, and they're easier for the girls to access. We could provide more of the pads to more girls, as opposed to buying disposables that we would have to buy more in order to reach the same number of girls. So that's kind of how we started. That's
Mhm.
our roots. We've been doing a couple other things, but I'll get into it a bit later. But that's kind of the story and the evolution of who we are as an organization and where we started from.
Okay. Um, where do you get these pads?
So the pads that we were buying in, or the pads that we've been providing to the young girls, we've been purchasing them from a producer in Zimbabwe. So we purchase them right now from, it's called Pad Up Zimbabwe. Um, and before that, we were purchasing them from My Pads, which was another not-for-profit organization. So their reason for being was to provide reusable menstrual products to as many people in Zimbabwe as possible. For Pad Up, it's the same thing. They're more of a for-profit company, but they provide training, as well as training on how to make the pads, as well as selling the reusable menstrual products in the community. We are now working to become more sustainable as an organization, in the sense that now we are starting to produce the pads ourselves. We're still working with Pad Up Zimbabwe, who is our partner, um, in Zimbabwe, but we are working to make the pads ourselves, to train the women to make the pads in the community, with the intent of not only providing these reusable menstrual pads to the girls and the women, but also dealing with another issue that we've realized is in the community, is the issue of access to employment. So we're trying to tackle those two issues together because they're very connected, right? It's the high levels of unemployment and poverty that are resulting in women and girls being unable to afford or access menstrual products. So if we can give the women employment, give them a living wage, then they don't only just have to buy the pads that we are selling, they can buy other pads in the community as well, whether they prefer disposables, reusables, whatever they would like. We truly support the idea of choice. We think our product is by far the best, but we want them to be able to access them. So that's kind of where we're finding the pads right now. We haven't started the, I guess, the Zimbabwean operations of things. We are going to be starting, hopefully, fingers crossed, making and selling reusable pads. So the Grace and Ellie reusable pads through our partner, Pad Up Zimbabwe, in January. We've already started the training of women, and we did some training of girls in June, and that went well. Even with the lockdowns that are happening on and off, but we managed to do the beginning trainings, and so we're hopeful that we will be making and selling these pads in Zimbabwe soon.
It is a very good initiative because I cannot imagine, going through that process with no pads. I know that when we were growing up, I'm not saying that there weren't people who didn't have, but the majority of girls and pads. But to think that their first experience and they don't have anything to use, that the trauma, that experience of education. But I would like to kind of dig deeper and find out, how far does your education go? Is it the education that's educating the people who are making the pads, or educating the girls to understand what will be going on? Because nobody really explains, we have our periods, and the things that we are told, the main thing that we are told is, do not sleep with boys, you get pregnant. That's all. Nobody tells you how many days it will take. Nobody tells you the physical strain you experience. Nobody tells you about the emotional strain that you experience during that time.
Mm-hmm.
What sort of education are you giving?
So one of the things we've been doing since 2016 is every time that we do provide the girls with these pads, we also provide training. So when we say training, we teach them not only how to use the pads, because that's something the girls need to learn. We also tell them about exactly what you're saying, right? A bit more information about their menstrual cycle and their bodies and what they're going through. And that's something that we have done through the partners that we have in Zimbabwe. And we actually did, when you talk about, you can't imagine what the young girls are going through. Excuse me. We actually did a campaign in 2018 that is somewhat ongoing, where we collected stories from young girls in Zimbabwe, mostly rural communities, to truly bring to light what they're experiencing and what they're going through. And you can see those stories on our website. graceandnelly.org. So you go there, you go to My First Period Stories, and it's enlightening to hear those stories or to read those stories from the girls' own perspectives. And we realized how to your point, right, the girls don't have access, or they don't have that knowledge. I remember when I got my period, it was very hush hush, you know. It's like, oh, you talk to your aunties about your period and your menstrual cycle. And even when you talk to them, as you said, it's very, you know, these are the things you do, these are the things you talk about, and you hide it, you know, you hide that you're on your period. Nobody should know that you're on your period. So, and to the education component, one of the things we're trying to do as an organization is create that awareness piece. So to foster the feeling and the belief that you can communicate about your period to anybody, right? To other girls, to other women, to men, to anyone in your family, because it's not just, yes, it's something being experienced by the girl or the menstruator, but it's something that affects you, right? It's nothing to be ashamed of. So we try and have that awareness piece. We've done some training with boys as well, to educate them about periods, to educate them about the menstrual cycle. So they might not be experiencing it personally, but we want them to also know what their counterparts are experiencing in class, right? If you see a girl with a stain, like a period stain, that's not something to laugh at, right? It's something to understand. Oh, this is what's currently happening to her body, and if she's experienced a stain. And I think all of us, anyone who's ever been on a period, has had a period stain at some point in time, right? Sometimes you don't know your period is coming, it surprises you. Well, even when you know it's coming, sometimes you might have a leak. So we're trying to create that awareness here in Canada, back home in Zimbabwe, trying to create the conversation. And in a minute, I will show you our products, because I haven't spoken about that part of it, but we are going to be selling our products both in Zimbabwe and here in Canada. We've already started selling them here in Canada, but we're designing them in a way that we want our product to be a conversation piece. Going back to the awareness aspect, right? We want people to walk into a room and be like, oh, those are your pads, those are nice, as opposed to, you know, the way we hide our pads. Oh my goodness, you know, at work, you take your pad, you put it in your pocket or your purse, and you're like, I'm going to the washroom, no one should see me. But we don't want it to be like that. We just want it to be like, yeah, I'm on my period, so what? Like,
Yes, you stick in your bra and kind of tiptoe as if you've done something wrong.
exactly. And it's not a healthy way to think that, you know, women menstruators have literally bleeding for millennia. And yet, in the year 2021, I, as a grown woman, am hiding my
Mhm.
pad or, you know, my tampon and pretending like I don't have a menstrual cycle. Like, it makes no sense, right? Like, it's, um, so that's one of the things we do, is create that awareness, have those conversations. If anyone asks me to talk about periods, I will always talk about periods. I love it. Tell me how your period is going. Tell me what you're feeling. Let's talk anytime.
Mhm. I like my next question was, remember boys used to laugh at girls who stayed, and unless they are educated when they are young, we still have
Mhm.
older men who are disgusted that a woman is on her period, who are abusive when a woman is
Mhm.
having her period. We have religious sector, the religious sector that says that a woman is not clean when she's going through her period. And during that time, she's either shunned or isolated or called dirty. And
Mhm.
yet, when we look at it, without a period, there's no life.
Exactly.
We could just understand that the reason why they are on earth, it is because that month the lining stayed intact, which was the period, right? The lining of
Mhm.
the womb stayed intact, and that lining was the period that cushioned them until they were born. If they could just understand that, the whole conversation about period and it being wrong, it being dirty, will change, because they will realize that for them to be there, they were covered and protected by the lining of the womb, which disintegrates and becomes a period.
Exactly. It's really why the you know we it's all part of the access to menstrual period conversation, right? When we don't talk about a problem, we don't know that it's there. Similarly to the revelation I had back in 2016 2015, that young girls and women around the world didn't have access to menstrual period. It's because I'd been taught my whole life to keep it under wraps, to hush hush. You don't talk about these things, right? And so when you don't talk about it, when you don't have these conversations, no one knows that there are young girls, there are women around the world who don't have access to menstrual products. One of the stats, it's from UNICEF a couple of years ago. It's estimated that over 500 million menstruators worldwide do not have access to menstrual products. That is a massive number. That is over 500 million people who, every single month that they have a period, do not have a pad, do not have a tampon, do not have a menstrual cup. They have nothing, right? They're relying on old rags, they're relying on leaves. In Zimbabwe, I've heard of, young girls relying on cow dung or sand or, free flow, is one of the terminologies that are used. So that is a massive number. It's mind boggling to me that that is the number of menstruators who don't have access to menstrual products. And one of the reasons is because we're not talking about it, right? It's something that's normally considered, oh, it's a women's issue, or it's an issue we don't talk about in public, right? It's like, it's not for the dinner table conversation. So the awareness piece, the conversation, and the reason why I love talking about periods is because in order to deal with the access issue, in order to deal with the health issue, we have to be willing as a community to talk about it, you know? Um, and so I'm going to show you our pads
Yeah.
right now.
So
The,
whilst
the
you're
reason why.
getting hold of those, that's a staggering number. And so you wouldn't know. Ooh, that's a staggering number. 500,000, that is a staggering number, unless you know all the time. So that we are reminded then that we all have a responsibility. But what I do now, because these are things, one, we take for granted, and two, we never think of them because we don't have the problem. We've never been exposed to that. And so one, we take them, we take for granted, and then we lack awareness because we've not been exposed, we've not experienced it. And so it just seems as though to us the problem, which actually is a huge problem. My question is, why hasn't this been made a government responsibility? Because people get a lot of things from the government, whether it is a check for this, a check for that. Not just in this country, but worldwide. Why isn't this something that governments have got on their agenda to say women need to be taken care of, and there's a budget for pads, even if it is giving every woman $20 a month. Take care of that. Now I will allow you to I will allow you to show us the exciting pads.
No,
Beautiful
it's
colors.
good. It's good. Sorry?
I love the colors. Go ahead and show us.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. And so, before I do that, to your point about why governments haven't taken responsibility, I think part of it is the hush hushness, right, of around periods. But there are governments around the world who are trying. So, like, I know Scotland, New Zealand, Botswana, Zimbabwe, even at some point, they talked about making menstrual products accessible, right? They were going to make pads free. Here in Manitoba, oh, I've lost you. Okay, so I'm going to assume she's going to come. Oh, there you are. They've talked about making menstrual products accessible. So what I'm going to do is tell you about the other part of our plan to make them accessible. And I was showing you the pattern of our pads. These are giraffes, which it's funny, I'm not the biggest fan of giraffes, but I also love them. But, the idea is to have a conversation. And if you go to our website, it explains why we picked this pattern. As the first pattern basically that we were going to come out with, is because I feel like there's something about the stoicism of giraffes, their intelligence and the way they look, that is in a way emblematic of African women, of Zimbabwean women, and how strong they are. So our website explains a little bit more about the story behind it. But this is why we say we want our pads to be a conversation piece, right? When you're walking around with your pad folded up like this, people are like, oh, that looks really nice. What is that? What's the pattern there? And you're like, oh, these are my pads. So going back to the accessibility portion of it, why do I have pads here in Canada? Is we really want to make pads accessible to everybody. We want, and I say pads, we want menstrual products to be accessible to everyone. And we want them to be accessible in a way that supports dignity. We want them to be accessible in a way that supports the person, the menstruator who has the pads. So in March of last year, I sat down with a group of women. I say sat down, it was online with a group of women from Zimbabwe, rural communities that we work in, so Mukombani. And I asked them what they wanted. I asked them what kind of products they were using, what products they would want to use. And their response to me was, if you can give me a pad that will last me a year or up to 5 years, that I can afford, that works, I will buy it. Even if I am in financial straits, that is something I want to do. And they were very adamant about them wanting to purchase the pads versus getting the pads for free. Because to them, it's like, I want to be able to earn money to be able to afford the pads. And then I want to be able to buy the pads. And I asked them how much they were willing to pay. And for them, they were like $1.25. So that's $1.25 US, because that's one of the currencies used in Zimbabwe. And so for us as an organization, we sat down and thought, okay, how can we make these products accessible to these women at a price that they can afford? Not at a price, of manufacture, or a price that, we can just break even, but a price that they can afford. And so one of the things was to make it a pay what you can, right? So we have a manufacturer here in Canada who's our manufacturing partner. They're called The Cutting Edge, and they actually hire immigrant and refugee women, which is fantastic. And we're working with them here to make and sell menstrual products here in Canada, or I guess North America, because it's Canada and the US, to make these pads. So the exact same pads that we're going to be making in Zimbabwe. And the idea is that the women or the menstruators in wealthier countries can pay a bit more, and then the profits from those sales subsidize the sale of menstrual products for women in rural communities in Zimbabwe. So it's not a buy one and then donate one, but basically it's it's almost the same principle, right? So you're buying the pads here, you buy your lovely, beautiful menstrual pads here. And then what we do is we take that money, we put it into subsidizing the pads that we're making in Zimbabwe. So the woman in Zimbabwe can buy the exact same pads for $1.25, right? So that's a way that we are, I guess, funding that and making it so that it's women helping women, or I should say menstruators helping menstruators. And we still going to be providing menstrual pads to girls in school for free. That is something we are, as an organization, will continue to do. The more funding we get, the more pads we manage to sell here in Canada, the more girls we can reach. There are many wonderful organizations working in this space, and we fully support them. And everyone is doing something a little different. But for us as an organization, we feel this is the most sustainable way for the organization to, continue giving to the women, to protect their dignity, to give them employment. So you've got women learning how to make and sell pads in Zimbabwe, selling those pads at $1.25. You have women here in Canada learning how to make the pads. Like it's a cyclical motion. It's a circle. And so I fully encourage everyone who's watching, listening to go to it's shop.graceandnelly.org. And you can always find me anywhere online, and you can see our different pads.
And also you can add all those links in the chat later on. You can go and just respond to some of the questions and give more information. Put your website there so that anyone who want to check out your website can do that. But I'm going to read some of the comments that we've got from Anticipi. Kombami network today is funny. I don't know what is going on. The weather is good, but it's freezing. I'm thankful that the audio is okay and continuous. So I'm hoping that our audience are getting understanding the good conversation that's going on here. It is important. Never take period for granted anymore. Okay, and then this lady, she needs a party, Mamutse. She says, awesome, sis, we have a menstrual health educational book to accompany your distribution in your community. www.vaskanaproject.org. You know about that?
Yes, I saw that. I saw an article about it, and we actually made a note to purchase some books for our next round of distribution, because we think it's fantastic and we love the educational component of it. So, Jisine, we will definitely be contacting you in the near future to purchase those books and share them with the young girls, because yes, I think it's a fantastic project, and we want it's like the whole organization's working with each other to continue sharing. So that's great. Thank you.
Collaboration is very powerful.
So important.
I think you've answered this question. And Zimbbwe is saying, are the pads disposable or recyclable?
So I guess the answer is they are reusable. So they are, I guess I didn't really show them very well. I was just showing the back because it's my favorite part. So they're cloth pads. So you wash them. You can put it in a washing machine. You can hand wash it and just continue using it as you go. They're different sizes, obviously. This is a nighttime pad. So like for people watching, they're not all this size. I will show you. Ooh. This is a panty liner size. So this one's about 7 inches long. So this is like if you're spotting or if you're wearing a tampon or a menstrual cup. So it kind of just like, holds the little leftover. And then I'm trying to, I had everything packed here. There we go. No, this is still a nighttime pad. And we have them in black. So the current colors we have are the beige, because some people prefer a lighter color. Yeah, I love the black because, you don't see anything. That's just me. But everyone is different. And we have little bags that you can put the pads in. So basically everything we have, and then there's another little bag here. Everything we have here that we're selling in Canada is stuff that we are going to be making and selling in Zimbabwe as well, because we really want it to be a shared experience, if that makes sense, of If I've bought my pack of pads, I have the comfort and joy of knowing that a woman in Zimbabwe living in a rural community is able to purchase the same pack of
Right?
pads or the pads and enjoy the same experience, which is just, who doesn't love these colors and giraffes?
It's
I
so
love
cute.
it.
They're
Yeah.
so cute.
Mhm.
So where did the name Grace and Nelly come from?
Oh, yes, this is such an important question, which I always feel like I forget. So, Grace and Nelly are my grandmothers. I feel like in Zimbabwean culture or a lot of African cultures, our grandparents are very near and dear to us. And Grace was my maternal grandmother, and Nelly my paternal grandmother. Nelly passed away last year, um, at, just at the end of May. But they had such an influence on my life and in my life. And one of the things we have a little on the website, there's a little story about why Grace and Ellie. They really influenced me. Grace was just a phenomenal, amazing woman. She was a saint, basically. When my uncles and my aunts passed away, she took in, her grandkids, my cousins, and she literally raised them as if they were own children. This is after having raised 10 of her own children. She, continued to take care of children. I never went to my grandmother's house and it was empty. There were always people. She always had food. She was a devout Catholic who believed in, very much in service, serving of other people, helping other people. And so she instilled in me the love of people and giving back to the community. And Nellie, my paternal grandmother, instilled in me the importance of being an independent woman. She was feisty, she was tough as you can get. And she really believed in financial independence. And so for us at Grace and Ellie, I believe I call them the yin and yang of my life. They both balance each other out, and they are who we are as an organization. That love of helping people and of hopefully helping these young girls and these women achieve financial and economic independence. I talked a lot about the pads and a lot about access to menstrual products, but as an organization, we are also providing and working on providing more training to the girls and to the women on entrepreneurship, giving them business skills, giving them new skills that can help them get employment. So one of the things I find is women in rural communities and young girls in rural communities often get left behind, right? We Technological tools often happen in the city. The city people have the internet, they have, the books, etc. Even with the pandemic, one of the things that's just been breaking my heart is those in the city in Zimbabwe, particularly the wealthier schools, the wealthier families, they've managed to do online learning. That is not something that has happened in rural communities. When the schools have locked down, they've shut down. So it's things like this, just imagining how far behind they are compared to those in the cities and those in other parts of the world that have access to the internet. So we're working on creating that financial independence, creating that independence and ability to create a business, to sustain that business. So it's long story about why the name, but that's who we are as an organization too. Oh, I feel like it's gone stuck for a little bit. Still there, Monica?
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Oh, I've lost you again. Network's being very finicky today.
There you go. I could hear you.
Oh,
I was saying that's an amazing story. It's freezing. I don't know why it's freezing. Amazing story, and you drew very strong values from both your grandmothers, and it is just when they were just going about their business and being who they are, they had no idea that they are going to leave a trail which is going to impact the world. And it is amazing that you're able to do that. Um, Let me see if there's another question. Okay, so this one was another one. So I maybe you've already answered this, because most women prefer to maintain to remain silent about it, so it remains a taboo. So the whole idea is to demystify and just to say it isn't a taboo, it is life.
mhm,
It isn't a taboo, it is life. And when you mentioned that when they can't go to, when they don't have the internet, especially around that time, this time, but the inequality between those who grew up in the rural areas and those who lived in the who live in the city has always been there. There's always been that disparity
mm,
where, where the ones in the city are way ahead. I remember that when I was growing up, we didn't have library books in the village. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as called a library book. And the first time I went into a library, I was in secondary school and I'd gone to a boarding school which had a library. The other kids had confidence. They knew where to find books. They knew what to do. I didn't know what to do. And it is because of that that I also am so passionate about taking library books to children in rural Zimbabwe.
mhm,
Most of the young people, by the time they go to university, that is the first time they are seeing the library, and also finding out that there's just so many resources out there. With the internet now, the speed at which they're being left behind is too much. And that, I feel you. I thought about that. I think about that. It's something that needs a solution. It's something that should not be ignored, because also half the population, if not more, are in the rural area. And by
mm.
not giving them the tools that allows them to grow with everybody else, we are looking at just disadvantaging them in a way that is unforgivable.
It's so true. It's heartbreaking.
Hmm.
But we fight one community at a time. This is our motto, the Grace Miller
Yes.
Project. One community at a time. We do what we can. We support them. We give them the tools. We get them to a place where, you know, to realize their dreams. Like, I've
Mm.
had opportunities that I am so grateful for. When you talk of access to a library, access to the internet, all these things were things that they were given to me. They were opportunities that allowed me to be where I am today. And so as an organization, we are trying to give these girls, these women in these communities the same opportunities. So they have the power of choice, right? That's what independence is the power of choice. If you choose to, remain in the community, to become a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, whatever you want to be, to have those tools and that opportunity to become what you want to be is what we're trying to give these girls and women.
You are doing such an amazing job. Is there anything that you know you're itching to say and just pour it out.
Oh, for everyone watching, thank you for watching. And please, please, please go to shop.graceandnali.org, and I will put it in the chat when I'm done. Please visit graceandnelly.org. You can either purchase some pads, please. We have a discount on right now. You can purchase one pad. You can purchase a starter kit to try them out. Each starter kit comes with 2 panty liners, 1 daytime pad, and 1 nighttime pad, as well as this, lovely little bag, or this little bag. And there's also a surprise to say thank you to all new customers. But please, please, please buy them, try them out. Let us know what you think about them. If you're not feeling like trying out pads right now, that's okay. You can, donate. No amount is too small at graceandnelly.org. So I will share both things in the chat. Yeah, and honestly, reach out to me if you have questions. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm found on everything, really.
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Reach out, ask questions if you want to take a part. Like, we are so open to ideas, to meeting new people, and yeah, anything anyone can do is great. Would be great.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thanks to you all, our audience. We need to all of us need to support the girl child. The girl child has got so many challenges. Some of the challenges that we know of. And then this one, because it's considered taboo and it's not talked about, it is a challenge. And some of the traumas that they go through because of the first experience with their menstrual cycle without any pads, they need to be addressed. And so I'm hoping that there is some counseling that happens as well, because these are traumas that even as grown women, if you remember what happened on your first day when that happened, it still traumatizes you. It still makes you lost your confidence there when people laughed at you and stuff like that. So let us always think about giving the girl child her dignity. Let us always think about giving the girl child an opportunity to grow.
Mm-hmm.
Let us always remember to give the girl child the same access that we give to the boy child. Because in our culture, we say, chenga osema nanga, hapana risina modzi. And so if you are hell-bent on kuchenga vakomana chete, you might find that further down the road, you just never know how life turns out. You might not have anyone to look after you, but that girl child you neglected, that girl child you didn't give as much attention to and invest in, will be struggling and giving you the little that she gets. And you'll be looking back and realizing that there's not much you can do anymore. So do what you can right now, so that no matter what, this girl child will always fight for you and will give you anything because you will have enabled her. Thank you.
Thank you.